All right, and it looks like we are live. What is going on, everybody? RogersBase here. Welcome to another 1v1 discussion. This is one of my favorite stream series that I have here on YouTube. And this week I am joined by a very, very special guest, one of the biggest Naruto YouTubers on the platform. By the way, I gotta say, congratulations, Swag, for hitting 1 million subscribers. Massive congratulations to you. Of course, we've got Mr. Swag Kage here. Now, the reason why I wanted Swag to be my first 1v1 discussion since coming back to YouTube is, as many of you guys know, I have actually been watching Naruto. For those of you who are only watching the reaction recap series on YouTube, basically I'm going to be uploading the final episode of my reaction recaps to part 1 of Naruto on Thursday, but we actually already finished that on Twitch. And so Monday, I'm going to be starting Naruto Shippuden for the first time. Now, the main reason why I wanted you to join me is some people might remember that back in, 2015, 2016, we did a video discussion.
2017,
yeah, it was
something
around
like that, yeah.
And we did a video discussion, Naruto versus One Piece and One Piece versus Naruto. And do you want to explain to the people what the idea behind that video was before we actually get into it? Because I still
it was a joke.
People are upset.
It was a joke because neither RogersBase or I had watched the other series that we were talking about, right? Roger hadn't watched Naruto. I hadn't watched One Piece. We were both talking completely out of our ass, just blind, right? And it was funny. That was the point.
The point of the video, exactly. It was the troll. It was that, obviously I'm a huge One Piece fan, you're a huge Naruto fan. Neither of us had really given the other series a chance. I mean, we'd seen bits and pieces of things. Like, for me, the thing I always bring up on all my Naruto reaction videos is the only thing I sort of was familiar with Naruto before going into it was that Temari and Shikamaru were going to fight at some point, because that was the one episode I saw in Toonami. But, beyond that, I really didn't know anything else about part 1. And I think you were sort of in the same boat. You know certain characters that die, but beyond that, you're not really familiar with the rest of One Piece.
Yeah, exactly. We were both just owning up to our ignorance and doing the, the Twitter argument thing, right? No, mine is better. No, mine is better.
Exactly.
As a joke, not being serious, it would be a little ridiculous to make a claim like Naruto's better than One Piece or vice versa without watching One Piece and actually mean it, which is why we didn't.
Yeah, But now that I've actually caught up, and you said, by the way, you're on volume 24 of One Piece now?
Yeah, no, that was forever ago. That was not long after we recorded that video. Actually, I started going through it, but I dropped it forever ago. Maybe I'll pick it back up. Maybe you
should. Honestly, you should. Right now, Wano Country's pretty good, so I feel like you're in for a treat if you come back in right now. But that's not what we're here to discuss. We're not here to discuss One Piece. We are here to discuss Naruto. And I think I want to ask you some very basic questions first and foremost.
Sure.
Keep in mind that, I've seen all of part 1 now. I just want to start by, who is your favorite character in Naruto part 1?
There are a lot of really good ones. I think maybe part of this comes from how much I like him in Shippuden, but I do really, really, really like Sasuke. I didn't like Sasuke as much when I was a kid, but retroactively looking at it, I think he's just the best way I can describe it is a lot of people when they disagree with me and they think that Sasuke is bad, or they personally don't like him. I'm just I'm really hard pressed to say that a character who literally every time they're on screen something interesting is happening.
Sure.
I'm really hard pressed to say that they're not one of my favorites, because I mean you can't really think of any times where Sasuke's doing something or he's the focus and it's not a really important plot set piece or a really cool fight or whatever. Sasuke's always at the center of super cool stuff. I also think he's extremely nuanced, especially considering the fact that he was a shoo-in at the last second. Kishimoto didn't want to have a rival character, and the Shonen Jump was well, we're Shonen Jump.
I did not know that.
You have to have a rival character. Yeah. He just had it was mainly going to be about Naruto. I think Sakura was going to be his love interest. I don't remember.
And then I'm assuming Orochimaru would have been the main bad guy then?
Maybe I'm not sure, but I do know that Sasuke didn't exist originally.
Wow.
And Shonen Jump was like, no, yeah, where's Shonen Jump? You have to have a rival character. We like that's just our formula. So he made Sasuke, and I think that he's extremely like fleshed out, well-rounded, and like I said, nuanced for somebody who wasn't originally supposed to be in the series. I mean, there's obviously a lot of Killua comparisons that you can make. They are very similar at like the base like ground level, like the foundations for the characters, like lightning powers, has like a criminal brother and stuff like that. But I think that the direction he ends up taking Sasuke is completely different and super interesting. And I mean, like I said, every time he's on screen, something cool is happening.
Sure.
It's hard not to like him.
I honestly think that's a good argument too. Without stepping away from Sasuke yet, because I do want to bring that up. I am somebody who doesn't particularly love Sasuke right now, but I can't argue with what you just said. With that, the majority of the really interesting parts of Part 1 surround Sasuke, even if I don't necessarily like him as a character. And I think a lot of that comes with the fact that I didn't grow up with Naruto, so this is new to me. But I already have seen so many different versions of Naruto, quote unquote, in different shonen, that to me I'm watching it and I'm sort of tired of him. But I also have to take into consideration when Naruto first came out, he was sort of setting the standard for all those characters that have been introduced in these series since Naruto. So it's easy to go back and look at it now and be like, oh my gosh, he's filled with all these tired tropes. But at the same time, he was the one to set that up in the first place. So I am right there with you. I think he is still an interesting character, and that a lot of the really great moments do surround him. I love the stuff with his brother right now. I could say with certainty,
his stuff with Itachi is so cool.
Oh, Itachi is one of those villains. When he was first introduced to me, and you get that scene with him and Kakashi, and he puts him in the genjutsu, and Kakashi's getting tortured for what in real time is only 5 seconds or something, but it's 72
hours.
1
second, but 72 hours in the dream world.
Absolutely unbelievable. That entire moment solidified that he's an amazing character to me.
Itachi's debut is one of the coolest things ever, because he's built up enough before then. You know who he is, and he's serious business, and you're like, oh well, he wiped out Sasuke's entire family, and the Uchiha clan was it's not just one family of
it's
a couple people. It's it's multiple different families, all who have similar ancestry. Itachi killed them all, and you're like, how strong must this guy have been? And then he shows up and just washes all these Jonin like it's nothing.
And it's so funny because that shot of him after, it's before he's done the deed, right? But he's already killed a lot of people at this point, where he's standing on top of the telephone pole. It was funny. We've been clowning on it during the watch through series on Twitch, where it's every time they cut back to that, it's we know already. But realistically, that is a very iconic moment. And that's all the way up to the scene where, Sasuke runs into his house and he remembers to take his shoes off still. Despite everyone around him getting murdered, Sasuke's taking off his shoes, putting them in the little, in the front room before he goes and meets with Itachi again. It's so good. The way that entire sequence is set up is just incredible. And then, of course, that iconic moment with Itachi with Sasuke in the hallway, holding him up against the wall.
Which is mean.
I got to that point in the anime and I'm like, oh, this is what this is from. Because I had always assumed, again, not being a Naruto fan, just sort of being on the sidelines for it, that was Sasuke holding up a different character. And that the character that was being memed on was, I don't know, some random fodder character. So when I found out it's actually Itachi, it was a little bit of a surprise to me.
I think it's very cool that so when Sasuke, because a lot lot of shonen rival characters have like Vegeta syndrome, where
Vegeta
they get robbed
syndrome.
of
Sure,
any.
sure.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But I think like when Sasuke like suffers like a meaningful defeat, like a big one, it's not like it's not in a way that like makes you the viewer respect him less, right? Like when Vegeta gets like fights Cell and it's just completely outclassed by him, it's kind of hard to look at Vegeta and be like, yeah, he's still just as cool as I thought he was a couple minutes ago. You're like, oh man, Vegeta, that was that was kind of tough. But like with Sasuke, it's like with like when he loses, it's to people like Gaara or like Itachi, and he still performs like impressive. Like he's still like impressive to watch in those fights. But it's just like, like how could you expect him to compete with people like that? Itachi specifically, because, and it really helps that you see before Sasuke meets him in the inn, that Itachi just cleans up all of the Leaf Jonin without breaking a sweat. So then when you see Sasuke run up to him, you're like, oh yeah, this kid doesn't stand a chance. And even then, the moment's not like. There's still so much tension there because even though you know exactly what's going to happen, you're like, oh man, Sasuke. And like when he drags like the Chidori across the wall and rips it up, it's so emotionally charged.
Oh my God. There's a moment I want to bring up right now because you mentioned Chidori. Yeah. First off, the first time he uses Chidori is so unbelievably
on the wall in the
so
Chunin exams.
unbelievably
so
high.
Cool.
And then, but the moment I'm thinking of is when Naruto and Sasuke have the little fight on top of the hospital, and you see the two of them clash into the water tanks, and then you see like the blown out front of Sasuke's, and you're going, oh my God, look at how much more damage his did than Naruto's. And then the camera swivels, and you see behind the other water tank from Naruto's.
Brilliant! It's so
brilliant.
Smart.
That moment is so good because it sets you up where like Naruto sees what he needs to see in that moment, right? Naruto sees that like, oh, he's not living up to Sasuke. He still gets that sort of that motivation he needs to get stronger. But everybody around him, right, Jiraiya and Kakashi, they all see the hole and they know what Naruto's capable of. So it makes you that much more excited when we finally get to that clash in the Valley of the End between Naruto and Sasuke, and they're really going all at it, and you've got the rainbow chakra, and Sasuke's got like his second state or whatever, and Naruto's using the nine-tailed tail things, and it is so amazing. Like that entire sequence is great.
How good. It's also an example of how good Kishimoto is at putting you in the headspace of his characters because you see all of these things like with the same information that Sasuke has available. So like when you get the reveal, like you're basically seeing it from Sasuke's perspective.
Right.
Like you may as well be him at that moment. You're like, oh my God. What the hell? Naruto would have killed him, dude. Of course he's gonna be mad about that.
Of course,
especially right after what happened with Itachi. And I mean, like the stuff with Orochimaru is all set up so well. Like he's straight up teasing Sakura about it, and she's like freaking out, like, oh no, Orochimaru's probably right. Sasuke, you can't leave, and like she's just flashing back to like the one time Orochimaru says it, and Orochimaru's so confident that Sasuke's gonna leave, and when he eventually does, you're like, man, I really didn't want this to happen, but I mean, I guess it kind of felt inevitable this whole time. It's so good. Like all this stuff is set up and paid off so well in part one.
It's interesting you bring up Orochimaru too, because that's one of the moments that really solidified for me early on, like how special Naruto Part 1 is, because you get that reveal right in the Forest of Death that the person that's been tracking them down is actually Orochimaru, and he stole the face of the other Jonin, and it's like it really it sets you up for just how great this villain's going to be moving forward into the series and like how much of a threat he actually is. So when you finally get to that moment, at the ending where Sakura's going to go train under Tsunade, and you've got Naruto training with Jiraiya, and then Orochimaru, training Sasuke and waiting for that 2-year, 3-year gap or whatever before he could take over his body. It's just fascinating to me, going back to something you said earlier, that Sasuke was originally not part of the story, because I get to that moment at the end of Part 1 and I'm like, oh my God, this feels like it was always meant to be. Like from the very first chapter, it seems like it was always meant to be this team training with the the members of that previous team, where this the Sannin, is it Sannin or Sannin?
Yeah, Sannin.
It's Sannin. Okay, I always thought it was Sannin, but then people were yelling at me in the chat saying I was saying it incorrectly during my live streams, and I'm like,
they were wrong. They were definitely wrong. It's Sannin, 100%.
Yeah, but I think Orochimaru just stands as like such a great villain as well. Some of those fights.
I never got who your favorite character was actually.
Okay. So this is actually funny. Have you been watching my reaction recap videos at all, or tuning in any of these? So you need to do this, because at the end of every one of my reaction recap videos, I do a top 3 ranking of my favorite characters for those course of episodes, and I sort of talk about my favorite moments and why I liked them. And from a very early standpoint, pretty much from the time he was introduced, I absolutely, positively love Rock Lee. I think Rock Lee is a character that, like, from the moment he just rolls up and fights Sasuke before anything happens in the Chunin exams, just to sort of get a gauge of like what's happening, and shows off his his taijutsu, and you see him going off, and then finally you get that fight with Gaara, and he takes the weights off, leading up to then him getting hurt, saying he can never be a shinobi again, and then Tsunade healing him, and then going into the forest again, chasing after Shikamaru and the rest of them to go get Sasuke back, and then he has the fight with Kimimaro, and he's got the drunken fist form. It's like every single time I see Rock Lee, I know I'm in for a good time. He's just one of those characters that I feel like anytime he shows up on screen, his presence literally makes the show better. And I can understand
I
why
agree.
some
It's
people
like what I was saying with Sasuke earlier, right? Like every time Rock Lee's there, something cool or interesting is happening.
Exactly. And I feel like so many of the fights, when I look back at part 1 now that I finished it, and I'm going, okay, what are sort of my favorite moments? They all lead back to Rock Lee. It's that fight with Sasuke at the beginning of the Chunin exams. It's the fight with Gaara during the prelims. It's the fight with Kimimaro where he's teaming up alongside Gaara, and it just goes to show.
So cool.
And it's so cool because, like, the way that he treats Gaara after that situation, you would think, you're pretty much paralyzed by this character after the preliminary exam. You've gone through this entire, rehab mini arc, the stuff with Tsunade, and you're finally about to chase after Kimimaro, and he just, like, welcomes him with open arms, basically. He's like...
And you know what's crazy about that? It feels organic. Like, in a lot of other series, like, where they just, like, redeem villains, it feels like, like, that there was no, like... You're just like, what are the consequences for all the things this person did? But like, you don't feel that with Gaara, right? Like, because I like it's because like his like I guess I'll reference Dragon Ball Z again here. Like a lot of characters do have like Dragon Ball Z syndrome, where they used to be bad and they turn good, and you're just like, well, okay, I guess, but it doesn't really feel like anything is done with them like afterwards. But like Gaara, like his change from like pure evil psychopath to just like calm, like gentle, like really stoic, but like overall like nice person. Like it's really sudden, but it still feels like very real and believable. And on top of that, Lee's reaction to him showing up, his reaction of like gratefulness, and like oh thank goodness this guy bailed me out, not oh I can't, I don't want to see it's surprising, but it feels like. I mean, it makes sense, and I don't know how Kishimoto pulled it off, but like, I mean, yeah, like it's so cool.
And I agree with you too. Going back to what you were saying with the sense of gratefulness, that it's his willingness to work with somebody who obviously not just physically hurt him, but like mentally hurt him in the past, and basically was keeping him from being a shinobi. He puts all of that aside because he understands what it actually means to be a ninja. And leading up to even that moment before Gaara gets there, the whole thing with Drunken Fist, like that is a whole direction I did not expect the story to go. When you get that thing with the medicine, and then you have that great comedic moment where Tsunade's talking with Guy, and then Guy says, yeah, one time we brought him to a restaurant and he accidentally drank my sake and he got so drunk that he destroyed the place. Like the way that he splices that sequence up where Guy's explaining it right before Lee actually drinks it. He's already on the battlefield, right? He's already fighting Kimimaro. And then you just get that moment where he pops open the bottle and then it's like, boom, episode ends. It's flawless. So I love, like I said, I absolutely love Rock Lee. But you brought up something interesting as well during that conversation regarding Lee and Gaara and Kimimaro, and that's consequences in Naruto. And that's a big thing I want to sort of discuss because I feel like I've gotten in trouble for, talking about My Hero in this sense and a lot of other different series in which I feel like a lot of modern shonen fall into this trope where a chapter will end and it's like, oh, the characters are really going to get hurt. Oh, this character's going to die. Oh, this character's near death. And one thing that was really refreshing watching Naruto for the first time, even with the Land of Waves story arc, the very first story arc, is you get to that moment with Haku and with Zabuza on the bridge. And you realize the second that Kakashi stabs Haku, oh my God, Haku's gonna die here. And then lead all the way up to that moment where then Gato shows up on the bridge and Zabuza has that, I'm like, you can't see my face right now, but I'm giving a chef's kiss. That amazing speech about like, do you really think I'm just a little demon? Let me show you how much of a demon I could be. I'll drag you down to hell with me. And he goes for the jugular with Gato and takes him. And he's doing it with the kunai in his mouth because he can't use his arms. Like it's so cool. So wild. And so I think from that moment on, I had done like a read through of the first 20 or so chapters of Naruto back. I think it was like a year after we did that discussion because people were obviously asking me to read it. And I read up to that moment on the bridge. I read up to them arriving, and I met what's the other kids? Inari, right? Inari, and you get the flashback and the stuff with his dad. And I met these other characters, and I saw the first initial fights and the initial clash with Zabuza, but I didn't get to the point, on the bridge where you actually get the fight between Zabuza and Kakashi and Haku and Naruto and Sasuke. And that's where I stopped during the read-through. And for years, people were like, you stopped right before it really, really gets good. So it was great because I binged the first, 20 chapters would have been like the first 10 or 15 episodes in like 1 or 2 live streams on Twitch. And so we pretty much very early on got into the brand new material, and I was just absolutely floored by it. I think the music is so good in the anime. I think the stuff leading up to that moment.
The anime soundtrack is incredible. It's perfect and it fits the series so well. And like when you hear Naruto music, you recognize it's Naruto music, right? Like no other series sounds like it. It's great. But keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that moment too with Haku, where you think like, oh my gosh, Sasuke could even die here. Like, because the consequences are set, like I knew obviously Sasuke wasn't going to die. There's very few things I know about Naruto going into Shippuden, but some of the few things that I knew about Naruto going into it as a whole, I know that the series is going to end with the Naruto Sasuke fight. I know that already. So I'm like, okay, he's obviously not going to die here, but then when you get introduced to Orochimaru and you got the stuff with the zombies, I'm like, well, hold on, wait a minute. Now I kind of feel like any character could die and he could just bring him back as a lifeless husk, So that was obviously pretty exciting as well. But yeah, that stuff with Zabuza and then Haku's backstory and the stuff with Haku's dad and then like the Kekkei Genkai and all this stuff that gets introduced there. And obviously, the very iconic moment with Kakashi and Zabuza, the Jin, Tori, whatever, Ichi-ni, San, Yo, Go,
the water dragon.
The water dragon stuff. And then, not just that, but you get those great moments with Naruto and Sasuke pretty early on as well, using like the fake out shuriken attack against Zabuza and, trying to break Kakashi free. It's just from beginning to end. I feel like Land of Waves is a really solid intro story arc. I would say even more so than a lot of the other shonen that, pervade into popular culture. I stand by that. I think one of my favorite intro story arcs of any anime or any manga in terms of shonen is the Gracefield arc in Promised Neverland. And obviously, people feel different ways about how that series ended in the manga or what's going on with the anime now. But I do feel like the reason why it worked so well as an intro arc in that series is because it sets up the core characters you're going to be following throughout the rest of the story. You have a really enticing antagonist, but somebody that obviously isn't like the end-all, be-all, endgame character of the series. But the stakes feel like they could be endgame level, right? Like it's very early on in the careers of Naruto and Sasuke and Sakura that we get that moment where, they run into Zabuza and Haku. But already that early on, you can feel the stakes. You can feel that like, okay, characters could die here. Someone could lose a limb. And it's just, you got to sit back, relax, and enjoy it. I just think Land of Waves is incredible. And, Zabuza ended up being one of the characters in my reaction recap. I think during the very first one, I mentioned like he might not ever make it back on my rankings because obviously he's dead now. But I would love to just have a whole conversation about Zabuza because he's the best.
he's a really Zabuza is really good at creating when you have like a mission. Or when you have an arc where like the premise is like, okay, so this team of 4 people is going to go out on a mission, but one of them is like substantially stronger than the main cast, right? Like Kakashi like dwarfs Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura in terms of like ability as a ninja. So it's like, well, how do you make that tense? How do you not like what do you do? Like, how do you introduce a threat there? Sure. And Zabuza is a really good answer to that because he's not like Orochimaru level. He's somebody that like he's not untouchable. Like Naruto and Sasuke could still feasibly like help Kakashi against him, which they do.
Sure.
And it also lets but I think the best thing about it is it lets you know like what sort of like potential that the main cast has and like where they could end up a few arcs from now.
Sure.
Like it tells you what Jonin level is like immediately. And it doesn't have to tell you like, oh, Jonin are very, very like it just shows you, right? Like
the stuff in the forest, right? Where Naruto, even prior to them having the fight with Zabuza, right? Where they're training, you get the stuff in the forest with them running up the trees and utilizing the chakra to, infuse it into their feet and then run up to the very top. And Sakura is the first one who gets up there, right? She's the first one because she has like this, whatever it is, like this innate talent
really good
for
at chakra control.
exactly
Yeah.
controlling chakra, right? And then Naruto and Sasuke, it sets up that rivalry, which obviously becomes so important later on into the story, and also becomes important even against the fight with Haku, where the two of them work together really for the first time.
Yep.
So yeah, there's all these different layers in which he's introducing characters, he's introducing plot threads for way later on in the future, but not really like solidly telling you, okay, this is the direction the story is going to go. Like it ends up taking a turn, and characters end up dying, and then you don't know, where we're going to go from there.
Yeah. Like I think it checks all the boxes it needs to, like, on the surface. It's competent in all the ways that it needs to be. But then it also does a lot of extra things. Like Kishimoto goes above and beyond to really make the arc like as good as it possibly could have been. I think, and I think that's why like so many people remember it fondly and talk about it like one of the best intro arcs in Shonen, because it really does like. I mean, there's not a whole lot that I wanted from it that I didn't get from it, and I think it's one of the reasons why, like, if that first arc hadn't been so good, I don't think Naruto would be nearly as popular.
I totally agree. I mean, if that first arc wasn't that good, I wouldn't have continued with it, honestly. It was something where, I'm primarily a One Piece YouTuber. This is not news to anybody. One Piece is the one that I grew up with of the big three, right? It's the one that I have a lot of nostalgia for. And it's just one of those things where, it feels like when we were growing up, everybody sort of chose one, and they stuck with one, whether it was Naruto or Bleach or One Piece. And maybe you were tangentially familiar with things from the other series, but you didn't actually know all the ins and out of that series, right? I can't name all the different Kekkei Genkai or like all the names of some of the background characters, just like you can't name all the different devil fruits in One Piece. But it's one of those things where you always have this like semi-familiarity with it, but you're just familiar enough with these other series that you're not really like craving to go back and rewatch them because they're long.
Yeah, exactly. Because I watched a couple episodes of One Piece when I was growing up, and I was like, I don't know, this is kind of weird because I was so familiar with Naruto, and I imagine it was kind of the same thing with you, but just And
that was honestly me with Bleach at first too, because the first one I picked up of the big three outside of One Piece was Bleach, and I was doing live reactions on Twitch, and I was having a good time. I got through a lot of Soul Society, but even with like the highs of Bleach, of early Bleach, I mean, like with training with Yoruichi and the stuff with Ichigo versus what's the red-haired guys, Renji, and then like the Aizen twist. I mean, there's great moments in early Soul Society, but I feel like Naruto managed to grab me sooner than Bleach did.
Yeah, I agree. Like, what's crazy about that Zabuza arc? Like, the whole thing is over in 4 volumes.
Yeah,
and
it's super fast.
Yeah, and that kind of like pacing is crazy. Like, I think I've read through the first like 3-ish volumes of Bleach, and it's just stuff isn't happening. Like, I may not have gotten as far as I think. Maybe I was only on volume 2 or whatever. But what I do know is like stuff. It takes longer for stuff to happen, and it doesn't really feel like stakes are that high. It feels like Ichigo's just doing stuff. I didn't get very far in Bleach at all. I pretty much like you did with Naruto at first, read like the first like 10, 15, 20 chapters.
Sure.
And it didn't grip me like Naruto did. And I don't think it would have gripped me like Naruto did if I had watched it when I was a kid, because like stuff in the land of waves, like, things are happening, but what's more important than the fact that things are happening is you get a very believable promise that more stuff is going to happen, and it's going to be just as good as all the cool stuff you just watched. And I think that's what makes it so easy to keep reading Naruto or keep watching Naruto or whatever, is like Kishimoto lets you know, like, okay, it's not going to stop, the pace isn't going to break. I'm going to keep you invested. I'm going to keep throwing more concepts at you, more characters at you, and I'm not going to be obnoxious about it either, right? And sometimes it does get a little bit exposition dumpy, but I think it's usually in ways that are necessary to build the world and make you familiar with the things that you need to be familiar with. I don't think it's ever like I don't think Kishimoto ever really does something that like just for him. Like, I think he's usually really good at keeping the audience in mind. And and making sure that they're as informed as they need to be, and also at the same time as entertained as they would want to be to keep reading. And I think, like, just in general, without mentioning any specifics, those are the reasons why the Land of Waves works so well.
Yeah.
And then it gets followed up by the Chunin exams, which literally everybody likes. Everybody likes the Chunin exams.
That was the big thing too, is everyone told me, like, oh, wait until you get to the Chunin exams, you're gonna love it. And you know, starting things off with that written test where people were like meant to cheat, I think that was setting the stakes already pretty high, and it was something that I had a lot of fun watching it, right? Because there's added bits of comedy that are thrown in there that don't feel like it's forced comedy. It just feels like it would naturally be part of this, with Naruto being stupid or, you know, refusing to cheat off other people, versus things that happen then later on with like the Forest of Death, where then obviously you've got characters dying. Gaara literally Jamba juicing 3 random sound ninjas like in the middle of the forest and squeezing them. I had my dog with me when I was doing my live reaction to that episode where, you know, Akamaru was like shivering, and we were laughing because the second that Gaara squeezes those 3 dudes, my dog like started yipping and then ran out of the room. He was just as scared of Gaara as Akamaru was. And then of course you get into the prelims and you get some of those amazing fights. And, you know, before we dive into any of that, because I have so many things I want to talk about in terms of the Chunin exams. We just hit the half an hour mark, and I want to shout out a couple donations we had. This first one is from Ray May, saying, "It's crazy. I actually found Roger and you through the Naruto is better than One Piece video you guys that you guys did way back when. I'm a huge fan of both of you." And then we got a donation question, which could potentially lead into some of the stuff we're doing in the Chunin exams. I don't know. Which says, "Roger and Swag." This one's from Brandon King. "Can you rate Part 1 waifus?" I'm going to tell you this right now. I love Tsunade. I think you probably agree with me. Tsunade is probably top 3 best girl. She's great, at least in terms of Part 1. But somebody that I don't see getting enough love, that I absolutely adore, who was introduced to me during the Chunin exams, is none other than Kurenai. I love Kurenai. I love Kurenai's design. I love she's got the cool red eye. I like all the different outfits she has during the ending songs. She's got the Dalmatian outfit even. I'm a fan of Corella de Kurenai. I am a fan of her, and I hope we end up seeing more of her in Shippuden, because I love her. But obviously Tsunade's top 1 for me. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Tsunade's best girl.
As far as like Part 1 goes, Tsunade is the correct answer. And I think that the only other one that I'd really say is like Anko. Anko's pretty cute. But
yeah, Anko's cute. Anko's cute.
Yeah.
Bruce D Anime said, "2 of you guys who inspired me to do YouTube. I'm so glad to see you both on a video again. Much love." Thank you very much, Bruce. Now, let's get back into the Chunin exam conversation, because there's a lot of stuff to break down here. First off, let's start with the preliminaries. Let's start by talking about, you know, what your favorite fight was in the prelims outside of Gaara and Rock Lee, because I feel like we touched on that already. So I kind of want to ask you, because I feel like that's universally the favorite fight. If you could name 2 other fights in the Chunin exams that really impacted you, what would those 2 fights be?
Now, when I say this, people are gonna roll their eyes because I really do like Sasuke, but I legit think that his fight against the guy who could absorb chakra, Yoroi, was really good. And I also liked Zaku versus Shino. Zaku was the guy who could shoot like sound blasts out of his hands.
Oh my god, dude. Shino is one of those characters. When Shino was very first introduced into the story, and you see that the bugs are literally crawling under his skin, I gotta say, I was not a fan of that character whatsoever.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, I get it, dude.
People in the chat are saying that your microphone is really low. Did you switch mics or something?
No, hold on. Let me boost my mic and move. I think the issue is that I just keep turning away and looking at other stuff in my room just because my eyes drift because I have ADHD and 'cause I'm just sitting here talking. Yeah. Usually when I record stuff, I'm like really up close like this, right? And I like never move. But when I'm talking, I just like, my gaze drifts all over the place. So I may be turning away from my mic. And that might be what it is. Does it sound better now?
Not really. No, it sounds like you literally shifted microphones, like you're using a different microphone now.
Let me see.
Because I turned your audio all the way up, but people are still saying that there's a sudden mic drop and you're still low volume. And I cranked you all the way up. So we'll see.
Now, is it better now?
A little better. It's still kind of low.
Let me hang up.
Oh, no, that's good. Literally, that's fine. That one was good. Say something?
Cool.
Yeah, you're good now. You're good now. Yeah, you're good. You're good. No, what we were talking about in terms of Shino is that was a character, man, I did not like at all when he was first introduced. I was so freaked out by the bugs crawling under his skin. But when you get to that moment in the forest later on, where Shino fights with, it's Kankuro, right?
Yeah. Because they were actually supposed to fight in the finals, but like Kankuro just gave up because
right, exactly.
They were, like anxious, just waiting for like the plan to destroy the leaf, and so then you actually get to see them fight, and it is pretty satisfying. Yeah.
Oh, my whole chat is still saying no. It's very low. Things are weird. You sound weird. It sounds like you're drowning in sound waves. Yeah, maybe restart your microphone real quick.
Yeah, I hear it. That's odd. Let me restart Discord.
Cool. Yeah, no problem. Hop back in. I'll have the call open. In the meantime, while he's fixing his microphone issues, let me just double check the chat. I like that all you guys are saying, no, okay, it's still weird. He sounds like Ricky on the old episodes of Japan Time. For anybody who's unfamiliar with that, Shofu and I do a Super Smash Brothers podcast, and one of our old co-hosts, Ricky Cocaine, he would always have microphone issues, and it would sound like he was literally in a submarine anytime that he would join the call. Shout out, by the way, to all you guys that are in here right now. If you haven't already, please make sure to like the stream. Swag and I are going to continue talking about Naruto Part 1, talking about our favorite characters, our favorite story arcs. If you want to see more of these 1v1 discussions, like I said, please like the stream. And additionally, if you haven't already, please go retweet our tweet, letting people know that we are live right now on YouTube. This is probably going to go on for like another hour and a half. We're planning on doing like an hour and a half long discussion today about Naruto. So yeah, if you're down for a really long live stream, please, by all means, retweet the stream, leave a like, let us know.
All right, what about now? Is it
Perfect.
fixed?
Way better now. Way better.
Cool. Awesome.
So yeah, I was mentioning this stuff with Shino and Kankuro, but that's interesting that you said that actually that was one of your favorite fights of the prelims of the Chunin exams, because I feel like there's so many good fights in the prelims. So I'm curious as to like why exactly that's one of your favorites.
That moment where Shino plugs up his like the little holes in his hands and causes him to blow up his arms is really really sick.
So I have a question for you in regards to Shino's powers too, because it's that the bugs feed on the chakra within his body, right?
Yeah, so like it's sort of like it's like a symbiotic like relationship,
right.
Like they both benefit from each other, and like the bugs do what he tells them. So yeah, like he gives them chakra, they do whatever he wants. That's how it works as far as I remember.
And then, what was the other fight you mentioned that you really liked from the prelims?
Sasuke versus Yoroi, the guy who could absorb chakra. Because Sasuke's just like sitting there getting beat up. All of a sudden, he copies the kick that Rock Lee, shot him up into the air with. Copies the dancing leaf shadow, and then makes the lion's barrage out of that, which is also awesome. I think if I had to pick like a third favorite, it would probably be Hinata versus Neji, just for like the character interactions there. But I think as far as fights go, those are my two favorites.
I definitely have to agree with you too, because I kind of forgot about how that is the first time we see like the copy abilities of a Sharingan really in a battle against a character that's actually meaningful. As you get that fight with Yoroi or whatever his name is, and Sasuke utilizes the taijutsu from the fight with Rock Lee. That is a really, really great moment, and also solidifies why that needed to happen when it happened. The stuff with Sasuke and with Rock Lee. Well, we just got a massive
I just saw
$100 or €100 donation, from Condioriano, the Pirate King, just saying hi. Thank you very much, Condioriano. Appreciate that. We're talking Naruto right now. This isn't a One Piece discussion, but I greatly appreciate you being here. Future Pirate King, greatly appreciate it. Thanks a lot for all your support. The fight I wanted to discuss on the topic of the prelims of the Chunin exams that I feel like gets a lot of hate, but I gotta be honest, like when we were actually watching it for the first time live on stream, I was on the edge of my seat. That is Sakura versus Ino.
So I have said before that this is probably the worst fight in the Chunin exam prelims, but I know you really like Sakura, and I could probably be convinced that I am incorrect. So I'm curious to hear why you do like it so much. Because thinking about it, I guess it's not like terrible. It's just slow compared to all the other fights. But I definitely don't hate it. Like there are fights that I actively dislike from Naruto, and this is not one of them. This is one where I'm just like, yeah, this is kind of slow, but yeah. What did you think about it?
So here's why I liked it so much. Because again, you have to take this in the perspective that I'm somebody who knows nothing about Naruto. I was going in watching it for what it was, and I think a lot of people, because I even see it in the comments of like our tweet saying that we were doing this today. There's people like, missing me with this garbage. I hate Sakura so much. Sakura's character's trash. Sakura's C tier. I hate Sakura so much. But I think people's judgment of this fight is clouded by their utter disregard and hatred of Sakura later, like for stuff that she does later on in the story. And I feel like in the moment, right, the only time we've really seen stuff with Ino is the stuff in the Forest of Death with the mind transfer jutsu. We don't know fully how that works up to this point in the story. So I kept watching that fight being like, okay, when is she going to take over Sakura's body? Is she going to like stab herself, throw herself into a wall? Like what's going to happen here? So on one hand, I was actually excited to find out more about Ino. Two, I actually liked their relationship. I like the two of them having sort of been friends before all this, and obviously the obsession with Sasuke is a little too much. And that it becomes even a little too much later on in part one. But I also kind of like the fact that that's what they bond over, right? Because it feels like an actual relationship between two schoolgirls, right? Is you've got these characters who have a crush on a character, who think it's like the end-all be-all of their world. They love this guy. They want to do everything for him. That's like the whole thing, even with the stuff in the Forest of Death where Sakura cuts her hair and how meaningful that was for her, and then stuff with Ino and the explanation of why her hair is so long. I really genuinely liked it. And I was waiting for that moment. Okay, like what's going to happen? Is the mind transfer jutsu going to work? And you have fake out after fake out after fake out where it happens multiple times and you think, okay, did she actually transfer? Oh no, she didn't actually transfer. Wait, what's going on? Who's in control of who? And it was just exciting to me. I think it was genuinely
I think
fun.
That dynamic of the fight was very clever, and I think that it was like it played with the audience's expectations super effectively. And
on top of that too, like you were talking about the other fights in the prelims, and that people found that one to be one of the least entertaining. But I think, like, to me, if I'm going to argue like what one of the weakest ones in the prelims would be, I think I love Temari Shikamaru in the finals, but Shikamaru's first fight against the girl with the what is it? It's like, I forgot even what her power is. The sound of the girl.
She has like genjutsu with bells.
Right, that's over like super quick. That's over within half an episode. Whereas like the Sakura Ino one was pretty much a full episode. And they spent a lot of time on them. And so, I don't know, I feel like I was more invested in what was going on with them. And then obviously, you know, I've said this time and time again, I absolutely positively adore Gaara Rock Lee. I feel like we could have a whole conversation about Gaara Rock Lee.
It's just perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no problems with it. What I will say about the Shikamaru Kin fight is it's very good at establishing the sort of character that Shikamaru is.
Sure.
And, like, the way he fights. I don't think I could have asked for any more from that fight as far as that was concerned. But I guess it is over, like, very, very, very
it's kind of like people were trolling me in the chat where you have Choji versus, what was the other guy's name? Dosu, right. Where people were like, dude, this Choji fight's one of the best of the prelims. You're in for a great episode. And then he literally just expands himself and then gets plugged up and explodes from the inside. And that's it. And you're like, oh, guess that's it for Choji. But, no, I actually think I agree with you with one of your other choices for your favorite prelim fight. You know, removing myself from the stuff with Gaara Rock Lee or Sakura Ino, I really did enjoy Hinata and Neji. And it was one of those moments where I really hated Neji when we're first introduced to him. I think it sets him up as a character where you're like, what an absolute dick, and the stuff with his family. But then when you get to the fight with Naruto and Neji later on, and then eventually the fight in the Sasuke retrieval arc with Neji and the other guy in the forest, the archer dude, it really sort of shows you this great arc of a character from, you know, being resentful of being part of the Branch family and not fully understanding, you know, what his role is within the rest of the Hyuga clan, to getting to that moment with Naruto and Neji where the two of them fight, and then you get the, you know, the scroll delivered to Neji where you find out the stuff about his dad, and then finally, after you've seen all of that, where you've seen his growth with the fight with Naruto, you've seen that fight with Hinata, you see him training with Hinata before then leaving and going with Shikamaru with the stuff with the Sasuke retrieval arc, and then finally finally having that moment in the forest where it's like, this is it. I'm using my Nintendo 64 trigram palms, whatever, and taking this dude out and catching the arrow. I mean, like, it really, to me, shows this great incline of a character, and it gets me really excited and invested in a character that now I want to see more of in Shippuden, despite the fact that when he's first introduced, he's sort of this character that you love to hate.
Yeah, exactly. I think that fight with Hinata is more than anything, like, less than being good as a fight is a really good character introduction for Neji. And I agree with you. I think his character arc throughout the course of part 1 is very fascinating, because you're like, how could I ever end up liking this character? It's sort of the same thing with Gaara, right? Like when I first watched Naruto with my fiance, I was like, Gaara's great. I think you're gonna like Gaara. And then like Gaara was just going around like killing people and laughing and being weird, and she was just like, how?
Oh, see, this
kid's like a psycho.
I liked him for the same reason. I liked him for the same reason early on that I liked Itachi early on, right? Is that he's set up as a legitimate threat when you see that him and his squad are the first ones to like clear through the forest and on some new world record type level thing where you know, him and Temari and Kankuro got through it, and he's
like never been hit before.
He's never been hit before, exactly. I actually really liked that about Gaara.
I thought that Gaara was great too, but it was just like my fiance was just looking for different things. Like she was just like, yeah, he's scary and stuff, but you're saying he's gonna be one of my favorites, and I'm like, no, please just give it time. And then like she eventually got it. It's sort of the same thing with Neji, right? Where you're just like, how could I ever like this guy? He's just so annoying and so rude for no reason. And then he like you said, he has a fulfilling character arc, and like by the end of his fight with Kidomaru in the forest, when he's just like, yeah, I got to do this, and he sorts through it all in his head. Yeah, it's great. I think that his fight with Naruto kind of annoys me, and I've made a whole video about this.
So this is what I wanted to bring up, because somebody in the chat actually said they consider Naruto versus Neji to be one of the worst, that you consider Naruto versus Neji to be one of the worst thematic fights in all of One Piece. So I'm very curious to see what you think of that.
I don't think it's one of the worst thematically. So it's kind of hard to explain, because I think that the direction that Kishimoto was taking the characters in the fight was good. Like he had a good idea there, and like the arc he had planned for Naruto and the arc he had planned for Neji over the course of the fight, all of that is good. And I like the idea of like Naruto like being a failure, overcoming genius Neji, because like that's kind of part of his character arc anyway, where he wants to be stronger than Sasuke. So all that stuff gets a thumbs up from me. The issue I have with the fight is that in execution, it's really weird, because Naruto just gets thrashed by Neji, right? Like he gets taken around town, beat up like crazy.
Sure.
And the way he wins is he catches Neji slacking one time. He wins with one punch, and he doesn't win with like a clever use of like the shadow clone jutsu or anything like that. He uses the Nine Tails chakra, something that's unique to him, that only he could use, like a unique power up that only he has. And it just makes it feel like the idea of like, like I'm like a nobody. I'm so much less like physically gifted or privileged than you. And I'm still gonna win like through like hard, right? Like it just feels weird to like deliver that message through like Naruto beats Neji with Nine Tails chakra. You know what I mean? And again, it just feels like Neji should have won that fight, right? Like Naruto got like he got beat up like bad, and he got hit with like the 64 palms, and like he doesn't hit Neji once.
I need to stop you real quick, because my chat is going crazy, because you said in all of One Piece, and everyone's quoting you saying in all of One Piece, and then just
I didn't say One Piece. I think you said all of One Piece.
Oh, I said all of One Piece?
Yeah.
Wait,
I think you did.
What was I referencing?
You were like, you think it's one of the worst thematic fights in all of One Piece.
Okay. I thought you would mention something about, and I'm like, first off, I didn't even hear him say it, so that was interesting to me. And then everyone's saying, oh, Roger made a slip of the tongue, you're making your fans cry, all this stuff, and I'm like, wait, what did I say? I must have just said One Piece instead. Yeah, I meant Naruto. Excuse me.
A mistake. I didn't. Yeah. All good.
That's crazy. My chat was like going, they were angry because they're going swag piece reacts, like they want you, I guess, to react to One Piece instead, or very weird. Yeah, I got One Piece on the brain because One Piece is coming out tomorrow, and I was going to make a comparison with something early on that happens in One Piece when you were talking about Naruto and Neji,
good.
but
I get it. I'm really bad about making slips of the tongue as well. Like I do it like all the time, and I feel like really dumb. So like
I think that's, hold on, this is actually a good time to talk to you about it too, because I also feel like this is something, removing ourselves from the Naruto conversation, I want to talk to you, this is a big part of my 1v1 discussions, about like what it's like to be a creator, right? Because I do feel like there are moments like that you'll have maybe in videos or in live streams where, you know, you'll name a character incorrectly, or you'll say the wrong technique, and people really think it's like the end of the world, or try to say like you're a fake fan of something because you don't know, you know, one specific thing about this series. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, we're creating, we're doing a live stream, we're talking about what we want to talk about, or we're doing a video about what we want to do a video on. And if you miss one or two minor details, it's not the end of the world. I think people so easily want to get distracted from what the crux of the conversation is. If someone just says one thing that goes off the rails, it's ridiculous. Like, I think that's one of the worst things that you see in a comment section. Life. You could do like, I'm sure with you, because you do scripted videos, is you do like a 40-minute long video, and the entire comment section will be stuck on like the one thing you mispronounced, or the one thing, and it's like, really, that's what you took away from this like 40-minute long thing that I poured my heart into?
There's like a running joke, I guess, and it's been a running joke for a really long time that I really like Madara. I bring Madara up in all my videos, and anytime I talk about Madara fighting somebody, Madara wins or whatever. And even when I either A, don't mention Madara, or B, mention Madara because he is like directly related to whatever I'm talking about.
Sure.
People will just be like, wow, swag, look at you, mention Madara. I'm like, bro,
the worst,
me alone.
oh my God, the worst offender for this, the absolute worst offender for this for me in terms of like old content that I was doing was my My Hero Academia stuff. Because I would constantly mix up One for All and All for One. Like all the time, to the point where like I still do it occasionally, even though I obviously know who has what quirk. But the One for All for One thing is one of the worst. Anyway, where were we? We got distracted. What were we talking about?
We're talking
about
Naruto
exams.
versus Neji in the Chunin exams. Yeah, what do you think about all of what I said?
No, I feel like, to me, the one thing I took away from that fight more than anything else was the creativity of him digging underground.
That was really cool. Him making a clone underground was awesome. I just wish he would have hit Neji more times, and that would have been like the last one.
No, I completely agree. And I think that then goes into what I love about Shikamaru and Temari, and another thing I really appreciate Kishimoto for, is like everything happens for a reason, right? Naruto makes that hole in the ground, and then it becomes important later on with the Shikamaru Temari fight, and that's something that, like, in a lot of other series, you would never even consider that. Why would, you know, why you're thinking about,
the hole would just be gone.
It would just be gone. Like, it would just be something that, whatever, I'm not worried about it. Like, it's not something I'm thinking about later on. But he actually utilizes terrain to his advantage, and I find that fascinating. Yeah, I love this stuff with Shikamaru and Temari, and I agree with everything that you're talking about in terms of like thematically why maybe it doesn't potentially work for you, but I think for where it needs to land within the story, I think it's completely fine. And I like Neji for who he is, and I love Naruto.
I think that
obviously.
Great. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I guess we can move into Shikamaru Temari if you want to. If there's anything about Shikamaru Temari that you love.
What a great fight! What a great fight! It's just so cool. Like, man, it's like so. While I said like that Shikamaru versus Kin was really good at establishing the sort of character that Shikamaru was, okay, like you know exactly like who he is after the fight with Temari. Like you don't have any questions left in your head about like how does he fight? How does it, like anything really? It tells you a lot, not just about his approach to combat, but just about him personally. And I mean, like on top of that, not only is it like effective at conveying like character, like just a bunch of different character traits or whatever, but it's also just a really good, entertaining fight.
I'm laughing because the chat was saying Roger doesn't know about Madara. I obviously know the character of Madara. I don't know the details. You mentioned Madara earlier. It's like I don't know the details of what Madara is going to do moving into part 2. But like I obviously know there's a character named Madara. That's one of those. That's like knowing that Ace dies in One Piece. It's like I know. Yeah. And there are certain things at this point that obviously I know about. I bring this up in all my videos. This goes back to. Bro, you know this more than anyone, I'm sure. It's like the people just won't listen. You'll bring something up in a video and people will not listen. You can bring it up 100 times. The one thing I always bring up is that one of the few things I know about part 2 of Naruto is I know the Tobi Obito reveal. I know that. Yeah. I've known that for years, you know, but that doesn't take away from me being excited to whenever that's going to get introduced into the story. Like, I know that Tobi is Obito, but we also have not really met Obito or Toby up to this point in the story. So I have no real.
So what I would do, really quickly, by the way, is what I would recommend that you do is you either read the Kakashi Gaiden chapters.
So we're doing that.
Or you watch.
Yeah. So
or you like watch it because that actually is supposed to be like set. Like you're supposed to read that
before
watch,
you get to that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like before part 2, exactly.
Right.
That's when it was originally set.
Right. The plan initially was for me to do that prior to starting Shippuden, but what I think I'm going to do is my first.
That's where it's located in the manga. It's in volume 26, I believe, right after the fight with Naruto and Sasuke.
And it's only like 5 or 6 episodes or something?
Yeah, it's like 2 episodes in the anime, I think.
Yeah, because what I was planning on doing was I was going to watch the first episode of Shippuden on Monday when we're starting it on Twitch. I was going to watch the first episode, then go directly into the Kakashi Gaiden stuff, watch those 2 episodes, and then continue on.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's not a bad plan.
Yeah. But
what were we talking about beforehand?
Sorry, I know we're going in a bunch of different directions.
The Gaara thing, and then that was off of the Shikamaru Temari thing.
Right.
What a good fight, right? Like how sick was he had like a 7-layer plan. Like like Temari thought she was like mentally keeping up with Shikamaru the whole time. She was like, oh yeah, I know what you're trying to do to me. Like you're not gonna outsmart me. And then like he just did. Like he knew what he was completely in control the whole time. And like if you didn't like Shikamaru before that fight, chances are you probably did afterwards, right? Like so. I'd say it was pretty good. It's definitely one of the best, like easily a top 10 part 1 fight, in my opinion.
I completely agree. And I like Shikamaru, and I liked him prior to that fight, but I do feel like I liked him on another level when you find out that he's a genius.
Yeah.
When you find out that he's a genius tactician, and then he ends up being the only one who becomes a Chunin. The only one of everybody.
Even though he lost this fight, he becomes a Chunin because he did that well in it. Exactly.
Oh, it's so good. It's just so good. And I love, too, absolutely love that moment, where him and Temari sort of have that back and forth and how it sets up their relationship moving forward. Like, again, another thing I know about part 2 is I know at some point they end up together. I know those 2 characters get up together. And so I love seeing the little seeds of that relationship starting during that scene, then leading up to the stuff in the forest where it looks like Shikamaru and, Kiba and all these characters are going to die, but then Temari saves the day, fights Tuyuya, Flute Girl or whatever, and then it's so great too because looking back on it, you know that they're obviously going to have backup with the Sasuke retrieval arc. You know these characters aren't going to die here. Choji and Neji and the rest of them aren't going to die. But then you get to that moment in the forest, and you're like, okay, I don't know how they're going to get out of this. I don't know how Shikamaru is going to beat this girl with like the zombie flute minions. I don't know how Kiba, especially Kiba, bro. When Kiba fought the people, Sakon and whatever the other dude's name is, where the two of them, like, they can literally regenerate cells and change your cells and split into people's bodies. I'm like, he's a dude that can turn into a dog with his puppy. Like, how in the world is he going to beat
these guys? He did a good job in that fight,
He
too,
absolutely
right? Like,
did,
I don't want to ruin, I don't want to, like, I don't think this will change part 2 for you too much, but that is where Kiba peaked. That fight is so good. It's definitely like got all of his best character moments. He did it, but like you said, you're just sitting there like, how the fuck's he supposed to beat this guy, right? Like, so, like the sand. I guess we'll get into that in a little bit after we finish talking about the Chunin exams because we still got to go over, like the Tsunade arc and stuff. But,
right.
I think that of like the finals, like the fights set in the Chunin exam arena, man, the best one is like Sasuke versus Gaara easy because like when Sasuke shows up, he's just like a different character.
It's so good. It was worth the wait because it was one of those things that very early on I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to feel a little bit of fatigue where like they're dragging things out, and maybe this wasn't the case in the manga. It was definitely the case in the anime where I'm like, all right, Sasuke needs to show up now. I'm ready for this. Please, like, show up. When he finally does, and you get that Chidori into Gaara's shield, and you see the two of them, it's the way they set that up, and you get hype for both of these characters who you know are going to be important moving forward, who you know, like, each have their own motivations, who've been training for so long. It's just, it's peak.
Yeah.
I think of the Chunin exams. I agree with you. I think it's probably one of the top 3 best fights in all of the Chunin exams. I would say alongside Rock Lee versus Gaara, and probably for me, Shikamaru Temari is my number 3.
I think that those are definitely the three best ones. I think that
Yeah.
Gaara versus Lee stands like above all of them, like pretty clearly. But like Sasuke versus Gaara it's a fight that I don't hear people talk about a lot. I think it's a little bit underrated and it's definitely very good.
I think people don't talk about it because it gets interrupted, right? Is you get
Yeah.
the whole lead into the next arc, and actually that's a great way to segue into what happens after that. This is where this next story arc is where I started to feel like,
Well,
okay.
real quick before we get into that arc, we got to talk about Orochimaru's fight with Hiruzen, the third Hokage. Like that.
Well,
man.
I mean, that's the next arc.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah,
sometimes people consider like the leaf destruction like the same as the Chunin exams, but yeah. I guess like technically like so no, I get what you mean.
Yeah, Konoha Crush I consider its own story arc.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
And so that's the main thing I wanted to talk about was Orochimaru versus the third Hokage, and then getting to really see all of those incredible moments, him bringing back the zombies of the previous two, having the summoning of Enma, the monkey, having this. There's so many good moments. I really don't even know where to start with Orochimaru versus Sarutobi, because I think that was another thing for me. I thought like, okay, Hokage is probably going to die at some point, obviously, but I thought it was going to be he's old, but I thought it was going to be like the end of maybe part 1 of Naruto. I thought that was going to be like the big fight of the end of part 1, similar to Whitebeard and the stuff that happens in Marineford. I thought this will be sort of where they close out part 1, then they have to find a new Hokage, and that leads into part 2. So what a surprise to me to then see that this is happening several story arcs before the end of part 1, where you've got these like really high level characters going at each other, and then finally you get that moment that I think a lot of people in the chat are probably laughing about, and that I was laughing about when it was happening too, where you just get this stall match between Sarutobi and Orochimaru for episodes upon episodes and upon episodes.
Man, you have no idea. Like as a kid, watching that on Toonami, like live, like and talking to my friends about it at school. Oh my god, dude! People were like, dude, he's just sitting there. Is he gonna die? Is he gonna get Orochimaru? Well, yeah, I mean, at that point, you knew he was gonna die because he summoned the Reaper, and like the stakes were already made clear. But you're like, is he gonna get Orochimaru? Like Orochimaru's just handling it. Like it was completely different. Like watching it live, but like yeah, it is a little bit funny too because they're just sitting there for like for me it was actually like weeks in real life of just like pulling on Orochimaru's soul. But I mean I thought it was still super tense and like really engaging, despite the fact that it is a little bit funny. And I think everything else about the fight too is just like, man, it's so awesome. Like the way that Kakashi versus Zabuza sets up what like Jonin level is like for you. Hiruzen versus Orochimaru in the first two Hokage is like okay, so this is like the Kage threshold. Like this is what Naruto has to get to in order to become Hokage. Well, this is crazy. This is like a completely different level than anything we've seen so far.
Yeah.
And that and I think it's very effective at that. And it also builds Orochimaru up to be really, really, really scary. Like the fact that he can just summon dead people, like whenever he wants, like wow, like he even bribes Tsunade with it.
Sure.
And I mean, like yeah, it's just great. Like at everything it attempts to do. I think it's definitely one of the best fights in part 1 overall. I think.
And I love too the whole thing where like you get the introduction of the Sound 5 or whatever they're called, where they show up there, obviously with the mass sound and everything, and they're creating that barrier. And then obviously that leads directly into the stuff with the Sasuke retrieval arc when you finally get to see all their own different powers and how they work within the world, and what their relationship is with Orochimaru. It's great. Again, it's those little teases of like, oh, here's the Akatsuki, but we're not going to tell you much about him yet. Here's these Sound 5 characters, but we're not going to say much about them yet. Everything just becomes important later on. But it doesn't take like. A lot of different series will seed things out, and it almost takes away from the story at hand. I mean, this is something in regards to One Piece that, like, I've talked about before that I really like. Like, I love the interim chapters of Wano Country in One Piece, like, where you find out information about the world at large and, like, the world building. And I'm almost more interested in those types of chapters, like the post-arc chapters, than I am with some of, like, the conclusion chapters of some of the later story arcs. And I think it's because I'm so invested and interested in what's going on in the rest of the world that, like, I know sort of that Luffy's going to beat the main character at the end of a story arc in One Piece, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in Naruto, I really don't know half the time. I'm like, some of these characters might die, they might need to run away, but they're setting up the world building without taking away from what's actually happening within the story arc itself.
Without pace breaking, yeah.
Right, exactly. Without pace breaking, exactly. And so that's something I definitely appreciate. Yeah, One Piece's world building, I agree with the chat, is God tier. I love the world building of One Piece, and it's just sort of like a difference in the way that the two mangaka are able to sort of implement that world building. Some is, separated from the rest of it, like between acts or, post arc, versus some of the stuff that Kishimoto is doing where he's, implementing it within the actual story itself. It's great.
I didn't even know, by the way, for the longest time, because like I just said, I watched Naruto weekly as a kid. I didn't even know that the Sound Four were the first four of the Sound Five were there when I first watched that arc as a kid. Because you don't recognize them at first.
No,
so,
I only knew because people in the chat were bringing it up to me. Yeah, and I went back and I was looking. I'm like, oh my god.
I was like, wait, when I rewatched the series, I recognized all four of them. I was like, wait, what? He put them here already? What the hell? It's very cool. Like you said, it's just a really nice subtle tease, and it doesn't feel I guess I'm trying to think of the word. I don't feel like I'm being it doesn't feel really, really, really forced, the fan service isn't oh, hey, here's the, cause you don't even know who they are yet.
Sure.
It's not something I guess in I don't know, say in Rogue One or whatever, where you have Darth Vader and it's look, dude, Darth Vader's here, he's so cool, and the whole point is it's not that, because you don't really even have any context, you don't know who the characters are in the first place. It's I guess it's reverse fan service or something, where it rewards you for rereading or rewatching the series.
Absolutely.
When you go back, you're oh wow, that's cool that this was here the whole time, and I didn't even know, and it makes the world feel a lot more real and believable, and the world doesn't feel small at all. I just mentioned Star Wars as an example. One of the criticisms that many people levy at it is that it usually just deals with the same. In the movies, it usually just deals with the same handful of characters.
Sure, it's you have this massive galaxy, but everything is revolving around the Skywalkers. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And people are what? But whereas in Naruto, and I think One Piece is very good at doing this as well. I mean, it's just the amount of branching pathways, that the world has it's speaking in terms of concepts, I mean, where
sure.
One thing connects to this thing, which connects to this other thing, which connects to that thing, and then by the time you get to the end of a single branch, you're so far removed from a bunch of other aspects of the world that it's wow, it's impressive that somebody was even able to craft this, and like I said, I think One Piece is excellent at that as well, but Naruto and I'm not saying Naruto is better at it. Let me make it clear. I haven't read far enough into One Piece to make a judgment like that.
It's
anyway.
Also, he knows. By the way, chat. I saw people saying in the chat too. It's I can't believe you're spoiling him on One Piece. It's Swag knows all this stuff I brought up. He knows the stuff about Whitebeard. He knows this about Ace. Don't worry. He's not been spoiled on other things that happen post time skip, but he knows all this other stuff. It's like me.
It's Aerith and Final Fantasy VII.
Or it's me knowing that Madara's gonna show up at some point, or that Toby is Obito. It's not gonna take away from me enjoying the series. I'm still having a lot of fun with it. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's also really crazy that Hiruzen actually straight up takes Orochimaru's arms, and Orochimaru still feels very scary and threatening.
Oh, absolutely.
He can't use jutsu anymore, and you're but for how long though? You're but how long is that gonna last? This guy's Orochimaru. Surely he can figure out a way around it. That was my first thought. Even as a kid, and so I mean, and like you said, it's just you're thinking of all these different things, all of these potential plot threads pop up in your head. Kishimoto doesn't even have to mention them to you for like, like, oh, they got to go find a new Hokage now. What's gonna happen there?
Right. Well, and that becoming a whole story arc in and of itself, or like seeing the payoff of his arms really getting messed up, where you literally see his arms rotting when he's in the shower later on, during that final sequence before. He's literally dying. He needs to grab the random fodder character to switch his body with. From and then and on top of that stuff too, finding out that Orochimaru's whole thing is he wants to get all the jutsu and make new jutsu and stuff, which is also another fascinating aspect of the story, because then it's like playing with the power leveling itself, right? If you create some powerful jutsu that's never existed before by combining other jutsus, like, what are you going to be capable of?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the idea of him with like a Sharingan or whatever, like if he like were to successfully take Sasuke's body, is like really, really fucking scary. So yeah,
I love it. But something else I also love is my favorite story arc in the pre-time skip era of Naruto Part 1. We've sort of talked about every other story arc except this one, so I'm actually kind of glad that we're ending with this one, is the Search for Tsunade arc. Now, it's funny because my comment section during the 2 episodes I recapped Search for Tsunade, actually, no, I think the entire story arc was done with 1 episode, but the comments were flooded with people saying, this is actually my least favorite arc in all of Naruto, and that took me by such surprise, because there is so much packed into this one story arc.
I don't know about that. That's cap if I ever heard it.
To say that it's the worst of the initial part 1 of the story. I mean, like, you get the introduction to Tsunade, you find out her backstory, you find out the backstory of her and Jiraiya and Orochimaru. You have her finding out, the stuff with Dan and wanting to bring them back to life, but also knowing that she has to stand up for the village and not falling for what Orochimaru had to do. The summoning of all their the summoning stuff. We haven't even talked about summoning jutsu yet. We've been talking for an hour and 10 minutes, and we still haven't talked about summoning jutsu. Like the stuff with Jiraiya, Gamabunta, then her and the slug that's on the moon, and then Orochimaru's giant snake, the fight with Kabuto. Like, there's so much stuff to break down. Let's actually start with the introduction of Jiraiya, because that's the very beginning of that story arc. And I had heard the name Jiraiya for a while. I know that he's a character that becomes important.
Chunin exams where he first shows up.
Right. Like, but you get
where he teaches Naruto, but you find out more about him, and when where you're like, oh, Naruto's gonna go on like a whole adventure with him. That's awesome. Yeah.
And that was the exciting thing, right? It's getting to see him and Naruto sort of going on their own little journey right now, searching for Tsunade, and that early 4 or 5 episode line of episodes where they get to the red light district and they meet Itachi for the first time, and Jiraiya steals all of Naruto's money, and then Naruto just wants to have some ramen, and Jiraiya spent it on hookers and booze. It's great, man.
Very funny. I also think that this is like really effective at like this moment here where they're in the inn and Itachi's there for Naruto is also really effective at sculpting Sasuke's character. Because,
absolutely.
Like, imagine you're Sasuke and you're on this team. You're on a team with like Naruto. This like this klutz. This like, I mean, like it's like almost legendary how much of a loser this kid is. And like your brother's like I mean, not only so first of all, Naruto beats Gaara like right in front of you. So you're just like, oh well, yeah, I guess he's just better than me. And then also you find out your brother, who it's like your life's mission to kill, right? Like this is the thing that Sasuke thinks about. Like before like fucking falling asleep or whatever, or like I mean, like it's just always on his mind. He's ready to kill Itachi, and like he finally meets Itachi after years and years and years of waiting. Itachi's like, no, sorry, I'm not concerned with you.
Yeah, you're not even close.
And says, actually, I'm here for Naruto. Like, man, what a punch to the dick, right? Like, and so like that whole interaction that they have, like I said, the moment where Sasuke drags the Chidori across the hotel wall is so cool. And then he just gets like bodied, right? Like there's nothing he can do, and it's like, I mean, like like you as like a viewer, like I mean, like you definitely didn't expect anything else. Like obviously Sasuke was gonna lose that fight, but you still can't help but feel bad for him. You're like, man, like this is all he's wanted, and he's talked about it so much. And it also, because I'm pretty sure you can, like, I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying there's probably maybe going to be a rematch, right? Like,
oh, of course. There has to be, naturally.
It would be really weird if Kishimoto didn't actually, like wrap up that plot thread. So this gets you excited for when they do eventually fight, like, again, and maybe it's not so one-sided the next time, right? And I mean, this is just, like a subplot in the search for Tsunade. It's not even like the main like it's not even like what you're actually like there watching for, and it's still really good. So yeah, I think this arc is great. I mean, it's hard to pick a worst arc in part one because they're all
they're all
really,
very good.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't really be comfortable saying that any of them are my least favorite. Like you know, like it's it's tough. Like it's like picking like a least favorite kid. You know, that's even harder than picking a favorite kid, right? It's picking one that you hate the most. And that I guess that's how I would describe picking like a least favorite arc in part one, because they're all really good.
Yeah.
I also think though that like Tsunade is probably at her best in this arc because like she's so nuanced, so like she doesn't feel like a shonen character. She feels like a real adult just got dropped into like a shonen that you were reading, right? You know, like it's really weird, almost like a little bit jarring.
I guess it is kind of a little bit, but at the same time, like
I mean, in a good way. I'm not complaining. It's in a good way.
Yeah. Because I was gonna say I was instantly interested, not just in the character design. Obviously, I think Tsunade's hot, but that's not what I mean. But I feel like as a character, I just found it fascinating. You got this like gambling lady who, you know, is a medical ninja on top of that too, which was a relatively new thing for me, right? That you've got like these really strong medical ninjas. And, you know, being one of the legendary
she's the
three.
only one who's, like, built like that, where she's, like, a bruiser and also, like, support. It's, like that I think that's really unique, too, because I can't think of a lot of characters like that off the top of my head. Really, none come to mind, actually, like a character who's, like, the Hulk and also like Mercy at the same time.
Right,
you know?
Totally. I mean, that's what makes that moment so hype, right? When you get to that point with the fight with Kabuto, where Naruto and Kabuto are fighting, and then Tsunade, you know, really looks messed up, and then you see her start like using whatever the chakra thing is on her forehead, and she starts healing herself while she's doing these massive tanky attacks. Like, she's the best. I feel like that story arc is very underrated, and clearly somebody in the chat agrees with me. History's Apprentice donated and said, the Tsunade arc to me is extremely underrated with how much story development and world building happens during it. Also, you two are two of my favorite anime creators. Happy to see you working together again. What more can you ask for? Thank you very much for your donation. Appreciate that. Very nice. Yeah, I feel like from beginning to end that entire Sannin showdown was fantastic. And then that moment too where Orochimaru is going to go stab Naruto, and Tsunade just, you know, whips in and steps in and tanks the attack, and you see the sword coming out of his creepy snake tongue, and then like, that's just the best.
Yeah, and man, the moment where Naruto just does the Rasengan on the fly,
oh my god, it's so good. The way to do it
is by using his shadow clones.
Oh, it's so good.
Like, okay, this is so cool. Like the fact, so he doesn't actually even do it right. He like figures out
he figures out a way around it where he's like, I'm gonna do a shadow clone who's building up the chakra in my palm for me while I'm doing it, which and like totally fascinating.
An issue with stuff like that in like fantasy series or like series that have their own unique power system is usually it can feel like the author is like making up rules to like to answer like questions posed by other rules. Like, well, how can this character do this? And then the author introduces like a new concept. Like, well, this is how they get X or Y. But like that's not what happens here with the Rasengan. Like,
he just
follow Naruto's training with the Rasengan. Like you know how it works and how he has to perform it. And when he does the shadow clone and it like contains the chakra, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. That is within the boundaries that like Kishimoto already laid out. Yeah. Like I didn't have any problems with it. It was super cool. It felt organic and like authentic. And I mean, like it felt earned too. Like the Rasengan was like this like legendary jutsu or whatever that like only a couple people knew how to use. And so, you know, you're like, I don't know, man. I don't know if Naruto's going to be able to play. And then he just does. And you're like, yeah, he earned it. It's honestly even more hype than the first time Sasuke uses the Chidori. And like, that's insane to me because I didn't think that like Kishimoto would be able to pull that off with Naruto. But like he does
consistently though. Like we didn't even bring up the Gamabunta versus, what's the name of
versus Gaara?
Yeah, what's Gaara's Tanuki named again?
Oh, Shukaku, yeah.
Shukaku, yeah, where you get Shukaku versus Gamabunta, and then Gamabunta and Naruto turn into the giant fox and attack him. It's like, that entire sequence was so cool, and I think something that Kishimoto does a great job of is like really getting you hyped for whatever that next power-up is going to be in a way that doesn't just feel like, all right, we need to get over this next hurdle. Here, I'm introducing this new power. It's like things that are set up and trained sort of quietly in the background and unlocking the different types of chakra. I guess, again, we skipped over Gamabunta a little bit, but I love Gamabunta. I love this stuff with Gamatatsu.
He's also a great character.
I love all the Gamakichi, all the other, like, little miniature frogs that you meet. All the animal sidekicks. That's something Naruto excels at. Like, I like, Tauntaun, is that the name of Tsunade's pig?
Yes.
I like Tauntaun, I like Akamaru, I like Gamakichi, I like Gamatatsu, I like all these little animal characters that get introduced, and it feels like the animal sidekicks from a classic Disney film thrown into like a ninja
honestly,
show.
You're right.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But they're just fun. They're like fun little comedic relief without actually taking away from the rest of the story.
And they're really cool too. Like Gamabunta's actually like badass.
Oh yeah, Gamabunta's awesome. I look forward to every time he gets summoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, like the whole Search for Tsunade arc is great from start to finish, and of course, it has one of the best openings. You know, that banger, Fighting Dreamers.
So I'm so happy, man. Perfect segue, because that's literally what I wanted to go into next. I'm so happy you brought that up. I was just going to ask you
if you want to read out donos before we talk about anime openings. I really, really have to use the bathroom.
Oh yeah, good, no problem. I'll read out a couple donations. Yeah, no, go use the bathroom real quick. I'll read a couple donations out. Though I do think it's funny. The very first donation question was actually directed to Swag, but we'll bring it up when it gets to him. This is from Mark Trailer, who says, will Swag be power scaling One Piece now? Everyone in chat wants and needs to see this, since you did such an excellent job with Naruto. No, he's not. No, he mentioned earlier, if you missed earlier parts of the stream, he is not getting into One Piece. He's not doing what I'm doing right now with Naruto. He read up to volume 24. At some point, maybe he'll read One Piece, but there are no plans for Swag to do a future power scaling video series with One Piece. That's not going to happen. So, literally, as I said that, not important, just said Swag saw the donation and dipped and knew it was the right time to go to the bathroom. Yeah, so no, he's not doing that anytime soon. So, sorry to burst your bubble, but he's not doing any One Piece reaction series in the same way that I'm doing Naruto. I also feel like that's okay. I feel like there's some people who just really want to talk about, you know, one particular series and dive into everything about that series, and there's other people who want to cover a bunch of different series. So, yeah, that's just not what his thing is, and you guys got to respect that. That's it. But we got another donation. This is from Degree360, who said, do you guys have a favorite Sannin? I brought this up earlier. Yeah, Tsunade is my favorite, but I also really like Jiraiya. I also think Orochimaru is a fantastic character. I'm invested in all of them. I can't wait to see what they do in Shippuden. Additionally, I see a lot of people asking about solo leveling. I'll be doing solo leveling again at some point. Don't know when I'm going to do it, but I will be doing it again at some point, so don't worry about a thing. Yeah. Also, we got another one from AK saying, by the way, some of the filler isn't canon. You can skip it. I get that you like One Piece and you think it's the best. Your arguments don't hold up, though. What are you talking about? What? I don't even know what this is. Some person bring it up in the chat. I'm not talking about filler.
Fruit snacks here with me, so forgive the crinkle crunkle of the bags opening.
Yeah. Somebody donated and was like, oh, filler isn't canon, and then was talking about how, like, I know you think One Piece is good, but you need to step away. So I don't know what that was in reference to. We haven't even talked about filler yet. I don't know. There's stupid fanboys in the chat.
I'm pretty sure you didn't watch any of the filler.
No, I watched 2 episodes of the filler. I literally watched 2 episodes of filler. I cut out everything except for 2 episodes. The 2 episodes of filler I watched the episode with the Kakashi Mask episode with the horse poop.
Yeah, that one's great.
I watched that one, and I watched Ino and Naruto going to fill in for, like, the chubby princess that looks like Ino, and you meet Fat Elvis, and then it ends with Naruto peeing on everybody. So I watched that one, too. But those are the only 2. Yeah, they're both funny episodes of filler, but those are the only 2 filler episodes I watched. I didn't watch any other filler. And I only watched those 2 episodes because everybody in the chat was like, we think it'd be really funny if you watched this. And so those of you who are watching on YouTube right now will see my reaction to that Ino episode in the video that's coming out on Thursday, because that's going to be my final reaction recap of part 1. So, Yeah, but those two I heard from everybody were classics. The mask one in particular too. Everybody was like, oh, you know, the different faces of Kakashi and getting to see the other ninja who were upset at him, and yeah, the whole thing was just really funny.
Yeah,
so
it's great.
Someone actually asked while you were gone, who is your favorite of the legendary three ninja? I said Tsunade.
I'm about to say, yeah, honestly, Tsunade. I think Tsunade's great. It's hard to pick between Orochimaru and Jiraiya. Like, so don't get me, like, I love Jiraiya. I think I like Orochimaru a little bit more than him, so that would technically make Jiraiya my least favorite. Even though I love him to death, he's great.
Yeah.
But like, I think Tsunade is my favorite.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up real quick too, while we were on the topic of filler. Somebody said I need to watch the Shino laugh episode. I did, actually. That was the other one I watched. We didn't watch the whole episode because it's filler. I'm not going to watch the whole thing. But people told me to skip to that episode where he's laughing, and we watched that. And it was funny, but it wasn't like, it was hyped up to me as like one of the funniest moments in all of Naruto. And I'm like, all right, this was funny, but it wasn't like gut-busting funny. And then the only other filler bit that I watched was because half of the final episode is non-canon. We saw the fight with Gaara versus like the dude that looks like the final boss of World of Light from Smash Brothers. I don't know what his name is, but where he just buries him and that's the end of the fight.
I still don't even know who that is because I haven't watched all that filler and I'm never going to.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But most of the filler I have skipped. Yeah. So yeah, going into talking about the anime openings, Fighting Dreamers is definitely my favorite. Like going through the entire thing, watching all the openings and all the endings. You know, I even watched the ones from the filler episodes. I've seen every opening, I see every ending. I think Fighting Dreamers to me is the one that really sticks in my head and is the one that I'll probably go into Shippuden saying is my favorite of part one.
My favorite of part one is either 5, the Sasuke retrieval one, or 2, Haruka Kanata, the Chunin exams one. And it's really hard for me to pick one. If you put a gun to my head and force me to, I think I would pick 5, especially because the animation in that opening is really, really, really good. Like, it's incredible. But yeah, so I guess my favorite's 5, but 2 is a super close second, and then 4 is my third favorite, that being Fighting Dreamers. Yeah.
And I think in terms of endings, I know this was very unpopular. My chat was angry with me. But I have 2 favorite endings. My 2 favorite endings, I love Meteor. Meteor is so good. Not only do I like the visuals of Meteor, where it's like a beach day kind of thing, but just the song itself is catchy. And the one that I keep coming back to, and I know it's goofy. I don't know why I like it so much. I understand some people like some of the endings better, but like I find myself, even when I'm editing videos, occasionally going Umi wa da 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 da.
Are you talking about Harmonia?
Sore wa, yeah, I love Harmonia.
That's the best one.
Okay, oh my man, yo, swag. This is why we're friends. It's a banger. I agree with you.
Yeah,
Harmonia.
It's just a fact. Like it's the best
so
one.
good. It's like the perfect chill thing to watch at the end of a Naruto episode. It gets stuck in your head. It's extremely catchy. Dude, yes! Yes! Man, I throw my arm out. Absolutely. I love Harmonia. Yes. And people were getting angry with me that I was like, this is the best ending. And I watched all the other endings. I watched all the other endings from the filler episodes. So like I saw the one where like it's drawn sort of like that Ghibli movie, My Neighbors the Yamadas, and it's like Naruto in his room. So I saw that one. I thought that one was pretty good. I saw the one with like all the dogs, where it's like the characters with the dog outfits. Like I said, I like Kurenai's Dalmatian outfit. I'm not gonna lie. I like it. I think she looks good. But yeah, I think that's probably my favorite of the ending songs. I love Harmonia. So I'm happy to see that you are actually a man of culture and agree with me.
Yeah. My second favorite one is Wind, the first one. I think Wind is like incredible and super fitting for that portion of the story. But I mean, like, yeah, Harmonia is easy, like top one, like no question about it. My opinion on it will never change. Like even like before I like knew that like I liked like openings and endings or whatever. Like when I was a kid, I think anyway. I'm 95% sure they played it on Toonami. And
definitely. I think that's the funny thing, right? Is that like how many anime openings and endings just sort of like permeate into our brains and make up such a huge part of our childhood. Like I still vividly remember some of the songs that were on my SanDisk playlist when I was in high school. Like I remember my anime playlist was like Eudeka, I had Eudeka 7 on there, like fly away, da 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 da. I'm pretty sure I had every heart da 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 da, and you know, the Inuyasha theme, obviously, da 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 da. And I actually think Fighting Dreamers was on that playlist, even though I was unfamiliar with Naruto because I like the song so much.
Awesome. I mean, it's very, very good. And let me tell you that the quality of openings doesn't drop off when you get into Shippuden.
That's good to know.
Maybe there's maybe like 2 bad ones, if even. I think there's only one that I really don't like, and that's really,
Is there an opening in part 1 that you didn't enjoy?
No, all of them are good.
You like all of them part 1? Yeah, I don't think there was ever one that I hated in part 1. The only one I was like, I don't know if I like this. I don't remember the name of the song, but it sounds like the person is just like screaming and doing karaoke.
Oh.
I don't know if it's an opening or an ending. But there's one where it's just like
a one like right at the end of the Sasuke retrieval arc.
I think so. It's a relatively recent one. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it, but I get why people don't.
Sure.
I think the band who made that opening also made the only one that I don't like from Shippuden.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. It's funny, someone brought up in the chat, I just remember listening to chill harmonia music right after Gaara turned people into a puddle of blood and forced them dead. That's exactly, you needed it after some of those Chunin exam things where characters are dying left and right and Orochimaru stealing people's faces, and then at the end of the episode you get a nice little Umiwa moment with Chibi, Ino and Sakura, hanging out with Sasuke.
I think it's super effective,
I think so too.
Juxtaposition, honestly. Like when you like when the episode ends and like Sasuke's surrounded by this like purpley black aura, and you're like, oh my god, he's about to kill somebody, and it just cuts to harmonia. You're like, bro.
Yeah.
No, it makes it even more impactful.
So I'm curious. I wanted to bring this up before we wrap up, and so I'm glad you sort of semi-transitioned into it too, talking about Toonami. Because I was going to ask you, I've talked on numerous occasions on YouTube about like how I started One Piece, but I actually don't know, nor do I think we discussed it in that one-off video we did like years ago. How did you get into Naruto?
So I literally every kid watched Dragon Ball and Yu-Gi-Oh on Toonami when I was a kid, and I think Yu-Gi-Oh was on Toonami anyway. Maybe it was on 4Kids.
I think for a time, I think Toonami had Yu-Gi-Oh, because I know Yu-Gi-Oh for sure was on 4Kids with Pokemon and with the DC animated shows or something.
Also had GX, so I think that Toonami had.
Yeah, I think
the Duel Monsters.
It wasn't. I don't think it was. It wasn't original Duel Monsters. I think it's It's like Duel City or something. What's the second major arc of Yu-Gi-Oh after Pegasus? Battle City. So I think it started with Battle City stuff on Toonami. I don't think the Pegasus stuff ever aired there.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, I was watching, and so I remember seeing trailers for Naruto, and I don't know why, but I clearly remember thinking, man, this looks stupid when I was a kid. And I didn't actually, I didn't tune in because, I wanted to. I was downstairs helping my dad with something, and normally he had on whatever he wanted to watch, but he just, for whatever reason, was just like, yeah, you can put on whatever. And Dragon Ball Z was going to come on in 30 minutes, but at least that's what I think. I could be wrong. Maybe I have the block myself in my head, but I'm 95% the Dragon Ball Z was going to come on in 30 minutes, but I had to watch an episode of Naruto in order to get to it. And there was nothing else on, so I was like, whatever, I have to give this a chance. And this was the episode, it was episode 4. It was the episode where you meet Kakashi and they do the bell test. And I was like, dude, Kakashi's so cool. He's the coolest character ever. And then I was hooked. And then I watched the fight with Zabuza and the water dragon jutsu. And I was just like, man, all right. I guess I'm hooked on this Naruto thing now. And I just never stopped watching it. So I mean, it was a really good first episode. And I mean, Naruto never left my life after that. Obviously, with how long it's been running, a lot of people dropped it at some point along the way. A lot of people just never, watched Shippuden because, like, part one had so much filler that Shippuden, like, didn't really come around to English TV until, like, I think it was like 2009 or 2010, like way after Naruto Part 1 had finished airing on Toonami.
Yeah.
Or at least the Sasuke retrieval arc had finished. Like it was way after that. So I know a lot of people dropped off like after that. But I mean, like I stayed until like I would watch episodes online. Eventually started reading the manga. Just like a lot of other people who are still into it.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I got really attached to it, I guess. Like most people who, have a shonen that they really like did. Like you watch it and you're like, man, this is the best thing ever. And you just stick with it. And now it pays my bills.
It's so funny that you were talking about, like, how it stuck with you and the Toonami block with Naruto, because that's sort of how I remember getting into One Piece as well.
Yeah.
Is I first got into One Piece. It's funny how tangentially Yu-Gi-Oh was related to both of our experiences of getting into our main shonen, because One Piece for me, I've talked about this before, I got into it because I wanted the Yu-Gi-Oh cards that were in the English literal physical Shonen Jump. And so I would go to Barnes & Noble with my dad and get the jumps just so I can get the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And I remember seeing Arlong Park, like, for the first time in the manga, and then there was a little teaser in there for like, oh, make sure to watch One Piece coming to Toonami soon. And that would have been like 2004-ish, I guess. And then I started watching One Piece on Toonami, and I didn't enjoy watching the anime, so I just kept reading the manga. And that's like how I absolutely got obsessed with it. I would go to Barnes & Noble and just binge like volume after volume. But I was curious while you were talking. I wanted to look up when Naruto started on Toonami and like what the block was when we were growing up for both One Piece and for Naruto. And it looks like the lineup really changed around like late 2004 going into 2005. So late 2004, we had Rurouni Kenshin, Yu Yu Hakusho, Dragon Ball Z, Megas XLR, and Teen Titans. That was the lineup on Toonami. And then as we sort of make our way into 2005, they add Zatch Bell to the mix. It becomes Duel Masters, Teen Titans, Batman, Justice League, Zatch Bell, and One Piece. And it's really not until Naruto gets added to the mix that it becomes mostly an anime block. Before, there was a lot of Transformers. There was a lot of, like other series, the DC series. But apparently, the lineup in September 10th, 2005 was Transformers, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Teen Titans, Zatch Bell, and then a 4-episode, 2-hour-long block of Naruto, where it was just Naruto. And then I think the one that most of us remember, which was just after that, which was Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, Zatch Bell, another 2 Naruto, and then 2 Justice Leagues. That's the primary one I remember sort of growing up. And then when they eventually removed Justice League and put in Teen Titans and added in Bobobo, I think that was kind of like the peak of me really getting into Shonen at the time. I was going to Barnes & Noble and reading D. Gray Man and Sergeant Frog, and then I was watching the Naruto block with One Piece, where One Piece was sandwiched between the 2 Naruto episodes. And then there was a Naruto episode before that with like Teen Titans and with Bobobo at the ending. I didn't realize that Bobobo was such a huge part of the lineup for like a year.
Yeah, no, I remember Bobobo getting, like they would like put ads for it everywhere, and you hear Tom like, Bobobo, coming up next, and
and you were correct about Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh was part of it for a time. And it wasn't until it was December 31st, 2005. Apparently, there was a 4-hour Naruto marathon that they called Naruto Year's Eve.
Yeah, I remember Naruto Year's Eve. I watched the whole thing, and I was really disappointed that they didn't do it again in 2006.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll do it again. Now that there's a lot of other Naruto fans out there, and Toonami's back, maybe they'll do a whole Naruto Year's Eve again. But 8 episodes straight.
I remember Naruto Year's Eve. That was like the best day of my life. I just got to watch Naruto
all day.
Yeah.
It's so funny too, because at least like you grew up with a good version of your favorite anime, right? Whereas like One Piece, when One Piece was on the Toonami block, for me it was the 4Kids One Piece. So we had like the abysmal, Belmare's getting thrown in the dungeon, and here's Helmapo with his hammer gun, and just like all of these terrible things that like I don't even blame people who chose Naruto over One Piece growing up, because I feel like if you were just watching the anime, it was garbage. Like 4Kids One Piece was so bad.
Yeah, I mean, like Naruto Shippuden, when it first started airing in English, was on Disney XD, and like as you can imagine, yeah, it was a similar thing, to 4 Kids One Piece,
Right.
where I mean, like you can't say kill, all the blood's gone,
Right. Right.
no guns, like 4 Kids Dragon Ball Kai was probably the worst example of this because you couldn't even have like attack names be like Gallic Gun or Spirit Bomb.
Right, right.
From the Gallic Blast and Spirit Blast. Couldn't have halos; they were little glowy balls.
That's so funny too, because I think of Toonami and I think of Yu Yu Hakusho. Did they always called it Spirit Gun in Yu Yu Hakusho, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They never.
Toonami didn't care nearly.
Yeah. But Disney, obviously, they don't want gun in anything they're doing on TV. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we've pretty much touched on everything. Is there anything from part one that you want to discuss with me as somebody who's now like watched the whole thing that you could ask me my opinion on something?
Who are your like top 5 characters? I guess.
Sure. So we talked about Rock Lee and Tsunade, I think, to death, so I'll move past them. A very basic one that I think most people agree with, one that I can't wait to see more of, is Kakashi. I feel every time Kakashi comes in...
everybody likes Kakashi.
Yeah, Kakashi spices everything up. I think, Kakashi teaching Chidori to Sasuke was a great moment. Kakashi going face-to-face against Orochimaru. Like, that hype moment where you find out more about Kabuto, and then Orochimaru sort of, like, is gassing him up, saying, yeah, you're on the level of Kakashi. It's like...
Yeah,
you're
I think it's so cool, speaking of real quick, that Kabuto wasn't just a henchman. He was actually able to like fight Tsunade.
Totally.
Like any other series, Kabuto would have been just a henchman.
Yeah, and Kakashi.
He wouldn't have done anything. But he was. Go ahead, though.
I was going to say, he's just got so many great moments, like the bell test and, the finger up the butt thing with Naruto and, like, infusing the goofy thing in there. Exactly, yeah.
Reading the book, yeah.
Just sitting there reading the book. Or, like, the stuff with Zabuza, obviously, is also great with Kakashi. I just feel like there's so many really good moments with him. And then, of course, we brought up earlier as well the stuff with Itachi and, taking out his genjutsu. Yeah, I'm excited to see more of Kakashi, so he's definitely up there. I would say Gaara. I think Gaara, more than any other character, I think has ended up in my top 3 at the end of my reaction videos. He usually ends up in the 3rd slot, but I feel like Gaara's been such a presence from the time he's been introduced that even when he's not there, he's somebody that I'm thinking about, and I'm like, okay, what's Gaara going to be up to? So, I got to say, I think Gaara is another one of those easy top 5s. And then, I mean, this is a very basic one. It should be a no-brainer, but, like, I love Naruto, man. I think Naruto is a great protagonist. He
is an incredible protagonist.
He's a little earnest. He does stupid things every once in a while, but at the end of the day, I think it's coming from a place where he never had a family, right? He's doing this. He's reaching out to Gaara. He's reaching out to Sasuke. He's standing up for the other people in the village because they are his family. And that obviously is something that is touched on again and again and again with, like, what makes a great Hokage. It's somebody who sees the village as their family. It's someone who protects. He's the pillar of the community, right? The thing they kept repeating over and over again was Sarutobi versus Orochimaru, saying, he's the pillar of our community and he sees the rest of the village as his family. So, yeah, I just think Naruto makes for a great, interesting protagonist, and he's somebody that I'm always invested in his story. I'm never like, okay, now I really need to get to the side characters. It's like, no, whenever Naruto's there, it's like, yeah, cool, show me more of Naruto.
Well, I think on that note, the one thing we haven't talked about, and the main thing that I really want to talk about before we stop, is, and I think that it is good that you mentioned that, Naruto's likable, he's easy to follow, he's at the center of some pretty interesting stuff, I think, in my opinion, better than Gaara versus Rock Lee, the best fight, not just in part 1, but in Naruto period, is that final valley fight between Naruto and Sasuke. It is so good,
my God, yes.
So crazy.
Yes.
So emotional. Like, man.
The animation. There's a moment that's sticking with me right now that I'm thinking of. When Sasuke does, like, the backflip onto the log and then kicks the log down and jumps on top of it, and then the log's, like, literally standing in the water and he's still balancing on top of it. As the fire's being blown against the water, you've got Naruto falling in. You're seeing the perspective from under the water looking up. Like, the animation is unbelievable during that.
Like, grabs Sasuke and, like, spins him around.
Dude,
and, like,
it's
slams
so
him
good.
Yeah.
Throwing him off of the cliff.
And, like, okay, so this is, I think, the best example in Naruto of the thing we talked about earlier with, like, Naruto having real, actual stakes and consequences.
Yeah.
Sasuke wins And that completely, because like if he loses that fight and goes back to the Leaf, the series is completely different.
It's totally.
But he actually wins and leaves and goes and joins Orochimaru. That blew my mind when I was a kid. I was like, wait, you can't do that. That's not how fiction works.
Exactly.
Oh man, he left.
It's even better because you see that it was set up to be that all along with Tsunade and Jiraiya and Orochimaru. It's like, okay, you've got Team 7, and they're all going to train under, their respective legendary ninja. Yeah, I that was a moment that I kind of saw coming. I figured that Sasuke would probably win the fight, that it wouldn't end up in a draw, because I knew at some point he obviously has to go off and get stronger so then he can eventually fight Itachi. And you also get the reiteration of his backstory and this stuff with Itachi and why he needs to kill Naruto, his closest friend, in order to get the, what's it called, the Mangekyo Sharingan or something?
Yeah, the Mangekyo
Sharingan. I'm surprised I actually know that off the top of my head. That's pretty good.
The stuff with the Uchiha clan, though, that backstory is surprisingly realized and fleshed out, though. Like it feels all like it really happened, and it doesn't feel like an afterthought. Even though the flashback is fairly long, it's like, oh wow, yeah, this is all it's all good, it's all important. But I mean, I think that, I've made a whole video about why I think it's the best fight in the series. But like you said, I don't usually find myself when Naruto is at when Naruto's center stage,
right,
and the series is focused on him. I don't usually find myself wanting to go back to the side characters or whatever. I think that he does a fine job holding my attention, but this fight specifically was one of the times where I was like, okay, no, I really want to see Naruto, because it's built up, right?
Of course.
Even the opening builds it up.
Of course.
And it delivers. It's not disappointing, even a little bit. You're not like, oh man, I kind of wanted them to do this or that. You're like, oh fuck, that was so good. That was so sick. This was the best thing ever, and it was built up. I think, now I get that this is a little bit contentious, and I wouldn't say you're wrong if you disagree. I think it's even better than Gaara versus Rock Lee. But I think that's a personal thing for me. I think that Naruto and Sasuke are both just, at their best throughout the whole fight. The second state thing is cool when Sasuke fully awakens his Sharingan.
Though I gotta say, I didn't like the look of his second state at first. I'm like, why does he have purple lipstick? What's up with these weird, arm wings? I wasn't a huge fan of his second state form. I mean, you'll see this, I guess, if you watch the reaction recap that goes up on Thursday. I was like, this is his second state? After we've seen all these other really cool iterations, it's this is what he looks like. But then when you actually see him in battle, I ended up really liking it. It was just that first transformation. Even that first time we got a tease of it during the Naruto Kimimaro stuff, I was like, oh, he looks cool, but I want to see more. And so when you see his face and he's got purple lipstick, I'm like, this is all weird.
Well, I think you'll really dig the way he looks as a teenager.
I'm sure I will. Yeah, I'm sure I will. People were mad at me that I didn't like his look when he came back during the Chunin exams more. People were like, oh, this is iconic look. I'm like, he looks like an emo kid to me. He looks like a kid I went to school with,
I think his black outfit is really cool, but I do prefer the standard blue high collar Uchiha shirt, yeah.
Absolutely. And then
that's that's my favorite fight in the series. I think that's all I really wanted to say. Obviously I could talk about Naruto forever, and we'd be here forever until the end of time.
Easily.
But I think I've said everything that I really, really, really wanted to cover.
Right on.
And I'm glad that you liked it.
Oh, yeah. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I can't wait to do more Shippuden. People they're making jokes. They're like, oh, he's going to drop it midway through Shippuden. I'm like, dude, I'm on this train now. I've done all of part 1, and it's good content for Twitch, and, I'm not dropping part 2. I'm going all the way through Shippuden. I'm skipping a lot of filler, obviously. So I wanted to ask you, this would probably be a funny way to wrap it up. Maybe this is where you were going as well, because I could hear the gears in your head turning. I was going to ask you if you wanted to ask me if I have any predictions for things that are going to happen in Shippuden. And
what are the plot threads that you are really excited about, and what do you what predictions do you have? And I'm not going to answer yes.
No, of course, I don't want you to. Yeah. One thing I mentioned at the end of my reaction to part 1 that people were laughing at me for, so I guess this must mean I'm wrong, but I don't know, I'm sort of sensing it, especially based on the way that people talk about Sakura and some of these other characters and saying, oh, a lot of their moments have peaked in part 1. I don't think there's really going to be a lot of death for major characters moving forward. I kind of feel like there's going to be a lot of excuses for characters surviving certain fights. So I think that's like one big prediction I have is I don't think there's going to be nearly as much like death or that characters are going to be thrown around willy-nilly in the same way that it happened in part 1. I hope to be wrong about that. But that's an expectation I want to set for myself, because if that does end up being the case, I think it would sort of take away from a lot of my enjoyment. But I think that's one of them. I want to know more about the Akatsuki, honestly. I feel like I liked what we saw of Itachi, and I like the fisherman character as well, the shark guy.
Kisame.
Kisame
is so cool. It sucks because he gets overshadowed by Itachi, but he is like
he's cool looking, yeah. So I want to know more about them and sort of, you know, why they want Naruto and fights with all the rest of them. I love their design, obviously. I mean, I think the black cape with like the red clouds just looks really cool. It's an iconic design that I had seen even prior going into Naruto. So I think a big part of it for me is seeing more of the Akatsuki. You know, I don't really care about like shipping anything. I think that's something that people sort of want to know my opinions on. And the reason I don't care is because I pretty much know all the final pairings. Like I know Shikamaru, Temari end up together. I know Sakura and Sasuke end up together and have a kid named Salad. I know Naruto Naruto ends up with Hinata and they have a kid, Boruto. I guess I don't really know many beyond that, actually, come to think of it. I know those 3, but I think everybody kind of knows those primary 3. I am curious to see if Sasuke ends up with Sakura. I am actually curious to see who Ino's going to end up with, and because there's like a hint of it at the end of part 1 where she's talking to Choji and she's like, he looks so much better when he slimmed down. And I'm like, maybe Ino and Choji are gonna have together, but I feel like that'd be kind of weird. I don't know. Like we got Kiba and the rest of them. I am curious, like, if Gaara's going to end up with anybody. Because I feel like Gaara is sort of one of those primary characters alongside Sakura and Sasuke and Naruto that it's like, is Gaara going to find love, or is Gaara sort of going to be off doing his own thing? I definitely feel like, for sure, this is like, no doubt about it. I think, obviously, I know Naruto by the end of the series will be Hokage, right? So I feel like Kazekage will have to be Gaara. No doubt about it. There's like no doubt in my mind, especially considering their father was Kazekage, that Gaara will be Kazekage by the end of Shippuden. Like, no doubt about it. And then I also just really want to know more about the other nations, right? We know more about the Wind Nation and we know about the Fire Nation, but I want to know more about the rest of them. I want to see some of the other villages. I want to see what the Kages from the other nations are like. I want to see them fighting. I want to see, you know, some overarching threat, like some type of war in which all of them get involved. I think it'd be really cool. And then I don't really have any stake in the Obito Tobi stuff because, like I said, that's something that I've known for a while. I am curious to find out, like, the relationship with... Is it Tobi Uchiha or Obito Uchiha? Go ahead and tell me.
His name's Obito Uchiha.
Okay, so his name's Obito. So like I do want to know his relationship with Kakashi, which is I think a huge reason as to why I need to watch the Kakashi episodes before watching Shippuden. Because I am.
You'll find out about his relationship with Kakashi.
Yeah. So I want to see more of that.
You also get to. Well, I don't want to tell you, but there's another really cool dude who shows up in that in the Kakashi Gaiden stuff. Who's he's great. He's one of my.
Is that the Pain guy?
No. Specifically in Kakashi Gaiden, Pain is a different guy.
Okay.
Who's like I think you're really gonna like him.
I know I will because I saw his design before and I was like, oh, he's got a cool design. Got a cool design, but it's funny. My only thing that I know about Pain, the only thing I know about him is I guess there was a group of episodes that were animated during the Pain arc that were like his face looked super stretchy and people were like taking out of context gifs and like how weird he looked. But that's literally all I know about him. But yeah, I am actually really excited to meet Pain and to find out whatever the Pain arc is about because he's I think you could just tell me if I'm right. He's an Akatsuki member, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when we find out more about the Akatsuki, I'm sure we're going to see more of Pain, and I'm stoked to see him. And then in terms of, like, any other predictions, I feel like 1 or 2 of the main squad, like, what are they called? The Konoha 10, Konoha 11, whatever?
Konoha 11, yeah.
I would say 1 or 2 of them will most likely die. Even if I don't think that a lot of other characters are going to die, I feel like at least 1 or 2 of them will. If I had to guess, I'm probably going to say Choji. And I don't know. Who else would it be? I don't think Rock Lee's dying. You know what? Here's a prediction. Here's a bold prediction. I think because people have told me that 1010 does nothing, I think 1010 might actually die in Shippuden. And just having not done anything in part 1. You get that fight. Oh, actually, here's something I want to talk about that we didn't mention earlier with the prelims. I loved the moment with Tenten landing on the fan of Temari's and just getting wiped.
You know what's funny about that? In the manga, that is the only panel you see of that whole fight. It's just,
yeah, so it's funny. They just fleshed out a little more of it, which then goes to say why I think Temari might just be fodder for like an emotional moment for Neji and for Rock Lee. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, but beyond that, I don't know. I feel I'm really excited to start Shippuden.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. I will say, the first arc, specifically in the anime, I don't think the manga has this problem, but the first arc, it doesn't start out slow. It gets a little bit slow in the middle of it, but it ends off really well. So don't drop it, please.
I won't. I promise I won't. Yeah.
I think that like the first half of Shippuden is like perfect, and in a lot of ways even better than part 1. There's one arc, big long arc in Shippuden that a lot of people don't like after like the first half that I imagine you probably won't like too because it drags, but then after that the end is great, super entertaining. So I think Shippuden's not bad. It's really good.
Especially if you're skipping filler. I feel like I'm not going to have this, especially because I'm binging it and I'm skipping filler. I think I probably won't have a lot of the same issues.
If you don't watch the filler, you're good. Yeah, if you don't watch the filler, you're good.
Yeah, I won't. Unless there's like a funny filler episode that I should watch. But I also don't think there's really going to be much humor going into Shippuden. With a robot?
There's one with a robot Naruto that with a robot Naruto that you should watch. It was made it is to commemorate the launch of one of the games that had that robot Naruto as a special playable character. Yeah, his name's Mecha Naruto.
Mecha Naruto. All right, well, I'm down to watch the Mecha Naruto episode. I think that'll be good. Well, with all that being said, we're about to hit the 2-hour mark, so I think this is probably a good place to end it. Dude, Swag, thank you very much for joining me. Greatly appreciate this. Once again, congrats on 1 million subs. Absolutely. That is amazing, dude. I like the fact that you have 1 million subs with less than 300 videos is like iconic. So it just goes to show that like you literally are the person that everyone turns to for for all their Naruto knowledge. So in case you don't know who Swag is, where can people find you?
YouTube.com/C/SwagKage. Twitter, SwagKage is my handle there as well. Got lucky, snagged it before anybody else did.
Very nice.
So you don't have to add anything else. It's just at SwagKage. Those are usually where you're gonna find me. I don't really stream on Twitch. Maybe I will, but if I do, it won't be now. So just
it was funny. You went to the bathroom and somebody asked me when you went to the bathroom. They were like, "So he's starting his One Piece reaction series on Twitch, right?" I'm like, "No, I could answer that for him. No, it's not happening." I'm like, I know that. I know that much.
Probably not happening, unfortunately. Sorry to disappoint. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Absolutely a pleasure. Yeah, and for anybody asking, yes, this will be available as a VOD later. So if you came in halfway through, I didn't announce this. I wanted to sort of be a little surprised because I wanted to do this before I started Shippuden on Twitch. And we had this planned for like last Tuesday, I think, and then we weren't able to do it. So we moved it around to be this Saturday instead. And actually, it landed in a perfect spot in the schedule. So I'll be back tomorrow for One Piece. And then I'll be back on Twitch on Monday with Naruto Shippuden, and you can wait. On Thursday is when the final episode of Part 1 of Naruto's reaction recap series will be on YouTube. I'll have links to Swag's channel, my reaction playlist to Naruto, and all that good stuff in the description. Once again, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to all the donations. Thank you to all the people who viewed live. And like, comment, subscribe. And until next time, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye, everybody.